All right, thank you guys for joining me. For those of you that I have not met in person that might be new, my name is Brian Factorman. I was born and raised here in Florida. In '93, after I graduated college, I went to Las Vegas and started a staffing business. I sold that in 2000. At the end of 2001, I came back here to Florida and got into the merchant credit card processing business. My company currently processes, we have 2,787 active merchants as of July of this year. We have definitely been affected by COVID. There's no question about it. Of those 2,787 active merchants, we had 2,694 that processed. So that means 93 of our customers didn't run any volume. And year over year, we were down 32% in July. In April, we were down 56%. So I think my business is a strong indicator of what the economy is doing because we have different merchants from different sectors and different industries. So we're definitely hoping that we move through this and our customers get back to processing the volume that they were accustomed to processing. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about contactless payments and PCI compliance today. Okay, what are contactless payments? Contactless payments are a secure method that consumers can use to make purchases at a credit card terminal or a POS system. It's near field communication that does it. It's radio frequency. So there's two ways to do that without doing an EMV or a chip transaction or sliding your magnetic stripe through the machine. If you are an Apple user, you can have this Apple Wallet app put on your phone, and then you could add your credit card to it, and you just hold your phone up to the POS terminal, and there's no need to insert the card or to slide the card. You can do the same thing with the Samsung Pay app. And then with a credit card, you're basically just holding the credit card over the machine, and that would be considered a contactless payment. Okay, how does a contactless credit card work? As I was mentioning, there is a chip inside, an EMV chip. It's radio frequency, and it will automatically pick up. It's a much faster transaction than an EMV, about a half a second as compared to an EMV transaction that's 2.5 seconds. Okay, how do I know if my credit card is contactless? If you have your wallet nearby or if you're near it today, if you look for this symbol right here, it's either on your card or it's not. If it is on your card, you're up and ready to go and you can run a contactless transaction. How do I pay with a contactless credit card? You check for that symbol that I was sharing with you. It would be on their terminal at checkout, any store that you're in. You just tap it and hold it up to the screen and you're going to get an okay. And I'm going to show you how that works in a video here in just a minute. Here is the symbol that you would see on each screen. You'll find it in Publix, Home Depot, Lowe's, wherever you go to shop, Walmart, it's there. So you're going to hold your credit card close to the machine, and it's going to accept the transaction. So I'm going to show you, this is my wife and I Sunday night at the dollar store, and I'm going to run a contactless sale here. Done. Didn't have to touch anything. No cards were exchanged as far as hand to hand. A lot more sanitary, and that's where we're moving, as you know, today. So paying by contactless and mobile wallet. As I mentioned, you have two different methods. One is the contactless card, which you just saw, and the other one is the mobile wallet that you can access the app and just hold it up to anything. And what I like about that, because my wife and I use that as well, is you'll see if you're in Apple Pay, it'll have a log of all the transactions that you had. Whereas if you're using your regular credit card, you would have to log onto your computer or an app to see what charges are being made. So I know minute by minute each day when I'm using my mobile wallet, what charges I'm being charged for. How secure is a contactless payment? Like EMV, and let me just share quickly what EMV is. It's Euro Pay MasterCard. It's that chip that we've moved to on your transaction that's a lot more secure. Prior to the EMV chip, we used to use the magnetic stripe on the back. The difference being The magnetic stripe on the back is what they call static. It never changes. It's very easy for a fraudster to copy that and use it over and over. When we use an EMV chip, it's considered dynamic, and every time you use it, a new set of codes is created, and it's much more difficult for a fraudster to steal. So the answer is it's a very secure transaction. So some of the benefits of contactless, it's much faster. So if you have a store or you're in a store and somebody uses that, for example, my wife and I went to pick up in Chipotle last week, and they had 12, 13 people in front of us. And I said, babe, let's see how many people use the contactless system in order to move through this line, and 0 people used it. So had they used it, or had the store maybe even coached their customers on how to use it, I think that line would have moved a lot faster. So there, you definitely can have speed involved. Reduce contact. It's not hand to hand. You're not handing your card to a cashier and them handing it back. Many times when you're using a credit card over and over, the EMV or the stripe goes bad and you have to call your credit card company to issue you a new one. This doesn't happen with contactless payment. And we're lagging far behind the rest of the world in contactless payment, which you're going to see here in a minute. So if you did go overseas and went to Europe or Australia or South Korea, you would see that contactless payment is much more prevalent than it is here in the United States. So here's global contactless payments. This is where we're going to be. This is in the billions. So we are continually growing with this. This is from 2019 data from Business Insider. You can see how it's ramping up globally, but what you're going to see here next is what is happening here in the United States. You can see that the percentage of contactless cards, this is from November 2019, A.T. Kenny. He is a leading researcher in our business. You can see the percentage of people in South Korea on face-to-face card-present transactions, they're over 90%. Australia, 70%. And the US is down here, less than 5% of our transactions in November 2019 were contactless. Here's some facts. Almost every Australian carries a contactless credit card. Almost all the banks in Australia issue contactless credit cards. One thing that I'd also like to mention is in the United States, we have so many card issuing banks that are issuing credit cards. They would have to be the ones to issue a contactless credit card. Whereas if you went to London and England, they have a lot fewer card issuing banks. So it's a lot easier for them to get those cards out and to have their customers using a contactless card. Over 75% of face-to-face transactions in Australia are tap and pay. And as I mentioned before, it's a half a second for a contactless payment versus 2.5 seconds for a regular EMV chip sale. So why is the US so far behind? The US card issuing banks are late to the game. That is the main thing I want to get across. Our card issuing banks need to get these cards out and in our customers' hands so that we can, move the contactless payment system forward where more people are using it. So if you remember, we just in 2016 started issuing the EMV chip cards. That's that chip that's on your card. I'm going to show you here in a moment. And that allows you to have a dynamic transaction. Back when I started in 2001, 2002, we had friction terminals. You would get a copy of your receipt, the yellow copy behind the white, and that would have all your credit card information. You'd walk outside the store, throw it in the trash, somebody would pick it up, and they would have your credit card information and data. And the sensitive data in a credit card is the expiration date and the CVV code, which I'm going to get to in a minute. But my point is here, we were 16 years behind Europe, who had EMV long before us. So good news is this past year, Citibank issued 11 million co-branded credit cards in a deal with Costco. That's going to put a lot more contactless cards out there. And my industry periodicals tell me that other banks are going to follow suit and start issuing them at a faster pace. If not, as consumers get more used to using a contactless card, if they have a contactless card in their wallet and a card in their wallet that is not contactless, they're not going to use the non-contactless card, which will incentivize the bank to issue a contactless card. So I want you to watch this quick little video. It's about a minute and a half on why contactless cards have not caught on here in the US.
When I moved to the UK from the US, one of the first things I noticed was differences in how people pay. Here, all the time is just tap and go. From a coffee, on the train, even at the gift shop. Come back to the US and it's good old-fashioned chip and sign. In fact, only 3% of cards in the US are contactless, compared to 64% in the UK and 96% in South Korea. In case you haven't seen them before, contactless cards usually include a symbol that looks a little bit like Wi-Fi. They don't require any swiping or signing, just a quick tap. One reason contactless payments have caught on quickly here in the UK versus the US, for example, is the sheer size of the market.
We have a smaller number of large retail banks that serve consumers in the UK as compared to what might be a much more fragmented and much larger market in the US. So it means that it's much easier to coordinate change for the industry in the UK.
In 2014, London Public Transportation started accepting contactless payments. That was a key step toward getting British consumers hooked.
Transport for London stepped into the breach and said to the banks, look, we're introducing this on transport, please get the cards into the hands of our consumers. So we went from very little usage to very rapid growth in a short space of time.
Another difference is over consumer attitudes toward new kinds of payments. In the UK, debit cards surpassed cash as the #1 type of payment method in 2017. In the US, cash is still king. Americans use cash for 55% of transactions under $10, and cash is especially popular in categories like groceries, fast food restaurants, and pharmacies. Part of the problem here in the US is that consumers are just getting used to chip cards. It took many retailers years to implement new chip card readers, which are branded as more secure than card swiping. Now some shoppers are worried that contactless cards will give up some of that security. Are there security concerns with contactless cards that are different than a chip insert or swiping, for example?
I think security is always front of mind for consumers, but the great thing is not only are contactless cards much faster, but they are as secure as chip payment.
There are some signs contactless cards are starting to catch on here in the US. It might be easier for retailers to adapt this time, considering that many of those chip readers they installed already came with built-in contactless technology.
The infrastructure is there, and it's just a matter of the cards coming out, which we're seeing now too. So the tide is really starting to shift.
JP Morgan's Chase says it's issuing the cards to millions of customers, and Visa expects more than 100 million contactless cards will be in the hands of Americans by the end of 2019. Public transport networks in cities like New York are starting to offer contactless payments, though some shoppers around the world might skip the physical cards altogether, thanks to digital wallets like Apple Pay, Alipay, or WeChat Pay. Contactless payments are generally good news for American shoppers and foreign tourists frustrated with waiting on machines and signing receipts. But the US still has a long way to go before everyone can pay with the wave of a hand.
All right, that was a good video. I think that was summarizing some of the things I said. So to summarize some of what we talked about, before COVID-19, contactless credit cards, as you are seeing, are poised to make a run, but I think it's been given a little bit of a push since COVID-19 has come into place. It's faster than EMV. There's no exchange of germs. So that's been brought to the forefront of our industry. And card issuing banks are ramping up to try to keep pace with the rest of the countries that are, far ahead of us. I woke up this morning drinking my coffee and I was reading our industry periodical, Digital Transactions. This came out yesterday, so I was reading it this morning, and I'm going to summarize what was in this article right here. I pulled out, so debit card transactions via the mobile wallet for week ending August 9th, which just passed, were up 76% year over year. That's great news. Credit card transactions via the mobile wallet, which is your Samsung Pay and your Apple Pay, rose 48% year over year. And contactless cards, putting your credit card up on the POS terminal, tap and go, were up 12%. So those are all good indicators that we're moving in the right direction. So the second part of my presentation is PCI DSS, and my understanding is there's some questions coming in. Should I take those now on contactless payments or wait to the end?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
So
I have a quick question. Security-wise, Brian, so there's no PIN or anything to enter. So if you lose your card, can anybody just go up to a terminal and charge something?
He was kind of muffled. Can someone repeat that?
For security purpose, you know, I noticed that all you do is swipe and go. So if you lose your card, isn't that a security issue?
Well, you're going to have the same protection with a contactless card that you would have with a non-contactless card, and the same protection that you have with EMV. So if you did lose your card that's contactless, it would be just like losing your card if it was an EMV card. Your bank is going to protect you if it's a fraudulent transaction.
But normally a credit card, you have to enter your zip code.
That's typically for a card not present transaction. When you have a sale that's under a certain dollar amount, there's no signature that's needed, and you can just cap.
Brian, do all readers that accept contactless cards also take Apple Pay with no
Yes.
card?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell us a little bit about if it's the strip on the card that is monitoring our purchases, or?
No, it is the EMV. I don't have my credit card in front of me, but the chip that you see, typically a gold little chip or a silver little chip, that is holding all the data for your credit card. That is what is being read. So if you run or swipe a sale, or a store still swipes a magnetic sale, they are susceptible to chargebacks with that, and that card being duplicated by a scanner. With an EMV chip, that's what it's reading, that chip, and the next time you go to use it, it's going to have a new set of codes for that sale to be processed. So it's a lot more secure than just using your magnetic stripe.
Okay. Doug, did that answer your question? Or is there more?
Really?
Go ahead.
Brian, how you doing, brother?
Hey, buddy.
So how do they know it's us? I go by Home Depot, I swipe, I put my chip in, and, you know, like Gon said, I drop my card on the way to the car. They pick it up, they go by Home Depot, they pick up a pressure sprayer, they put it in there, put the chip in. They don't know if it's Doug, or they don't know if it's, you know, how do they don't check your ID anymore. They're not looking for signatures anymore. So how do they control this?
Yeah, they don't know if it's you, and they don't know if it's not you. But that same card, let's just say that we weren't even speaking about contactless. If you drop that card, they could also go and do an EMV transaction or a chip transaction where, let's say you're at Publix, you stick it into the terminal, it reads the chip and gets an approval. So either way, I could pick up your card that you dropped and go make a sale. What you're going to have to do is you're going to call your credit card issuer, let them know it wasn't you and it's a fraudulent sale, and they're going to refund your money or not hold you accountable.
No, I understand that that's the way it goes, but why did they do it? I guess it's for time, I guess, for efficiency, but not checking, you know, I guess you don't have to sign anymore. And those terminals where you used to sign with a plastic pen, you never could sign like you signed on your card anyway.
Yeah.
But it just seems like, you know, the quality control has been lost just through this chip.
Yeah, different banks, Doug, have different caps. So let's just say that you went into a store, let's call it Home Depot, and you wanted to buy a $250 pressure sprayer. That will go through on a chip transaction. Now, let's just say you want to buy a generator that was $2,500. Home Depot is going to have a cap on it, let's say $1,000. So they're willing to take the risk on a sale for the aspects of moving the line through faster. But if it's a large transaction, you're probably going to have to do an EMV chip, and you're going to have to show your ID.
Yeah, and they also have it on my card itself. I have a fraud protection where, you know, if someone's trying to buy something in Orlando and I just bought something in Jupiter, plus you're right, the size of the transactions, they'll send me a text and I'll have to answer the text in order for it to go through.
That's right.
That's offered on individual cards as well. Appreciate it.
What you'll see happen is when there's data breaches where, let's just say TJ Maxx was data breached and hundreds of thousands of cards were stolen, what'll happen immediately is all the banks are going to know that that happened, and they're going to tighten their security. So you might go make a purchase for gas here in Jupiter and then drive to Orlando. And when you stop to go use it, it's going to be flagged because you're in a different spot. They're just checking to make sure because there's been a data breach.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Are most issuers pretty happy to send out a new card if you request that you want the contactless feature?
Absolutely.
Can you show us where the contactless feature is on the card again?
Sure.
I don't know if I saw it.
It's like a little Wi-Fi symbol, Doug.
There it is right there.
Got it.
It's right here.
It's on the front or back?
Front.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure.
Did we miss anyone? I think we captured everything from chat.
I think Melissa had one there at the end. And then it was like Gary just put one in too.
Yep. Why aren't banks prosecuting thieves who steal our info? There's no real consequence from what I've seen.
Yeah, there's no way. Two of my best friends are cops, and I have a buddy that works for the FBI. There's no way they could possibly spend their time on trying to prosecute unless it's real big dollars. There's just so many cases happening so often, and these thieves are so smart that the cops are always behind.
And Gary's asking why more restaurants in the US are using the mobile card readers carried by waiters. So they don't have to go to a remote station and run the card. They're bringing the station to you.
They are. That is. He's asking that or saying that.
Why are they not in the US, but they are in other countries?
Yeah, we're behind. We have probably 10 or 12 restaurants that do table pay. So it's just the aspect of whether that restaurant or store wants to bring it in. We have a lot of animal hospitals. When they do euthanasia, they don't want someone that's putting their dog down to have to come out to the front counter. So they bring a wireless terminal in and they can run the transaction there. It's really up to the business owner, but no question the United States is far behind Europe.
If someone's close enough to you and your cards are both wireless, what's happening there?
You make them pay.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Ronnie, I probably didn't say it exactly as you wanted me to. Do you want to ask him?
Ronnie's talking about card scanners. Somebody can scan your wireless chip. Is that still a problem these days, Brian?
Yeah, I'm getting to that in my PCI, but yes,
okay.
There's different ways that you can duplicate cards. One is with a scanner and keeping a tight network, which is a great lead into what we're getting ready to talk about, is PCI. So maybe I can go into PCI and I'll cover that.
Yep. Melissa has one more question, and that's, do metal cards work with contactless?
Yeah, if it has that contactless symbol on there, it works. Yeah, the contactless cards and the titanium cards are causing an issue now in our industry. So like American Express has the black card and there's different titanium cards. Those cards are damaging card readers. So it's not the consumer that has to get a new card. It is the store that has to get a new reader. But the titanium cards right now have been a big issue that are causing readers and pin pads and POS systems to break.
Thank you.
Sure. So next part of my presentation is what's called PCI. And what does PCI stand for? PCI is Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards. So there's different security standards for different types of businesses based on the type and size of their business in order to keep your credit card information secure. So the standards were created to increase the controls and reduce credit card fraud. PCI was established back in 2004, and each month really, it becomes more and more refined. I find that business owners kind of brush it away and they don't think it's that big of a deal. My staff tries to encourage each of our merchants to make sure that they're PCI compliant. We're continually working on it, and sometimes I'll get on the phone and let them know how important it really is. PCI was put together in 2004 by American Express, Discover, JCB, MasterCard, and Visa. They came together and said, how do we create a format here where we can work together in order to reduce credit card fraud and the trillions of dollars that are being lost? So there's 12 different standards that they put forth. One is to build and maintain a secure network. So they don't want someone to be able to hack through your computer network, get into your computers, get into your POS systems, and get credit card data. So therefore, they're out to protect the cardholder data and make sure that you're not storing any cardholder data in your network, in your file cabinets, in Excel spreadsheets, so on and so forth. So there's a vulnerability program and measures that are implemented, which I'm going to get to right now. So there's 4 different levels. My understanding is, or my belief is, that everyone here on this call is going to be running a business that does 20,000 transactions in less a year. So you'd be type 4 or level 4 merchants. And for each level, there's a different set of criteria that need to be met in order for you to be PCI compliant. So what comes on a level 4 merchant? I'm going to focus on level 4 because that's what most of us are here. There's an annual self-assessment questionnaire. It's 2 pages long. It's about 18 or 19 questions, and they're going to ask you how you run your business. We have a monthly vulnerability scan. If you're processing with me, you're doing that now. There's 389 certified assessors that will try to penetrate your network and go through all those SAQs to make sure that you're in a secure environment. We use TrustWave and Control Scan. So what they're going to do is they're going to try to penetrate your network, get into your POS systems, get into your computers, so on and so forth. And if something comes up, they're going to flag it and you're going to need to correct it. Well, the question is, why does security matter? Because we're trying to protect each and every person's cardholder data. And if it's not protected, it affects the entire payment card ecosystem. Customers lose trust in their merchants or even your business. If they go into your business and they find out that maybe you were hacked or someone used their credit card and they shopped at your store, you might not even know it, but they're probably not coming back, or they're going to have an issue with someone's business that isn't protecting their data. So there's also substantial fines for customers, for merchants that are not secure and PCI compliant. So what are they after? They're after, I'm going to show you right here on the card, the sensitive data. The 2 pieces of sensitive data are the expiration date. This is the chip right here. When we talk about EMV, this right here is the chip that's being read. So we have a card and a person's name, but what the thieves are after is the expiration date and the CVV code. The CVV code on an American Express is going to be this 4-digit code here. And the CVV code on a MasterCard or Visa is going to be on the back. It's going to be these 3. So if they can get their hands on these 2 sensitive pieces of information, they can do a lot of damage. So how are cardholder data stolen from places? They could compromise your reader, put a magnetic reader on there and steal data. If you have a business and you are storing credit card information in a filing cabinet or in a file and writing customers' credit card numbers down with a CVV code and an expiration date, and let's just say someone breaks into a business and they steal that information and go out and make fraudulent purchases, you are responsible. So we have to make sure that that's not being done. There are different databases and virtual terminals that we offer so that you can keep the information of your customer and their credit card information in that database, but you're not going to be able to see the expiration date and the CVV code, but you'll still be able to run a purchase. You just can't store that cardholder information on an Excel spreadsheet or a Word document or in a filing cabinet. That is going to cause you some issues if that went out and became a fraudulent transaction. Hidden cameras. We have a customer that was hacked into last year in Yonkers, New York, a lighting store. He has a security camera right above his register, and he was hacked into, and they were able to watch the hands of the cards being entered on terminals and on their keyboard, and they had to get that fixed right away. So you definitely want to make sure that your network is secure, and that's what PCI compliance does. They have a certified assessor that's going to try to do all those things in order to make sure that if something can be penetrated, that it's fixed. Here is a list from the PCI website and Self Key Foundation of, in 2019, the number of cards that were breached, which is millions and millions and millions of cards. So you can see it's still a problem even for the largest of organizations. And it's something that will continue to be worked on. Just the fraudsters always seem like they're one step ahead. So that's it on PCI compliance, and I'll open up to any questions.
Brian, in your graph, it showed that Japan didn't have any of these. Is it because everybody uses the mobile phone?
I'm sorry?
In Japan, you showed that there wasn't any contactless cards. Is it because everybody uses the phone?
I didn't see that. My understanding is they do have contactless cards.
Okay.
I'll double check that for you, Amin, and get back to you.
I was just curious. Because I think a lot of them even can order things in the subway and things like that with their phones. So I think they're a lot more advanced.
Right. One of the things that I'll mention is just to piggyback contactless payments and being more secure and working with COVID and germs. My wife and I spent last Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday in Key West. They are very COVID forward. Each of the employees that are in the restaurant and hospitality industry have to get certified. They go through a course. Many of them wear it on their shirt. And you'll see when you go into the restaurants that just like those acrylics that Scott Bedford sells, they have an acrylic piece on the tables that you're eating at. And some of them even have it taped to the table with acrylic. It's a QR code. You scan that code and the menu pops up. They want you to do that with the QR code on your phone rather than passing out menus and exchanging germs back and forth. So I haven't been down to Key West in a few years, but they're definitely very forward and very ahead of the game down there.
Very cool. Hey, Brian, it's Ann Ionacity here. Hey, how are you?
Hi.
I wanted to let you know I have a contactless card, and you're right. It is the one that I pull out and use all the time versus the other cards. And the one thing I will say is you have to get it really close, usually, to the machine, and it's got to hover over usually the right spot. You can see on the machines there's a code that looks like the contactless code on your phone, on your card. And then, but it works, and you just have to, very gently make sure you don't touch it, because if you're worried about germs, you want to make sure that you're keeping it contactless. But they work, and it's really cool. You don't do anything else. You don't put in your PIN number. You don't put in your zip code. You don't sign, nothing. Away you go.
Good. Okay.
Good. Any other questions for Brian related to either the PCI compliance or the contactless, cards?
Yeah, I've got one if nobody else has. Brian, can you have multiple cards associated with Apple Pay in case you want to use different accounts for different transactions?
Yeah, I do. I have 2 Visas in there, an American Express, 2 American Express, a personal American Express, and my business American Express. So the answer to your question is yes.
Do you feel easier and better with the Apple Pay versus the contactless card?
I do, because what happens is it shows me a list of all the transactions, and I can just scroll through it. So I just always feel like I'm up to date and I know exactly what's being charged on my card.
Brian, what are the differences in the level 1, 2, 3, and 4?
For what?
A level 1 is going to be like a Walmart, and their security standards are going to be a lot greater than somebody like one of us. They're running millions of transactions, so their standards are going to be a lot greater than a type 4 merchant.
So type 4 merchant, what are they capturing off of the invoice? The level 4 merchant.
I don't understand the question.
Well, in other words, on the level 2, I was aware that they pick up some information. In other words, we all of ours are handled through our point of sale system. Okay, all the credit cards that are stored in a vault, handled by that particular processor. You and I have talked about this because ours is integrated with our software system.
Right.
But I was told that level 3 and 4, they capture information off of our invoices, line item information along with zip codes and tax information, etc.
Well, level 3 and 4 is not going to be so much as far as what's captured. Basically, what we're talking about here is what needs to be protected and the standards for protection.
Mm-hmm.
A type 3 and a type 4 merchant are going to be significantly more involved as far as what needs to be protected in order to get in, the level of the firewalls, so on and so forth.
As far as the PCI compliance goes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, well, great
Hey, Brian,
stuff.
I have one question. I have one quick question. Hey, Brian, what happens? You have a bunch of vendors that, you know, are just not getting up with the times and they want your credit card given over the phone. My credit card, my business credit card's been compromised, I don't know, 3-4 times in the last couple of years, and you have to replace it, and it's such a pain in the butt. But I mean, is there anything, I mean, obviously the credit card processors are not getting up with the times either. I mean, other than having them struck a check to make payments, I mean, any advice that we could give them or try and get them up to the times?
Sure, they could contact me. For example, we have a link that's sent out. For example, Spazio Marble, one of our customers. They used to, when I met them, send out a form where they would fax it to someone, they'd write their credit card information, fax it back, and I suggested, hey, this is a route we need to go. So basically they send a link which is attached to our virtual terminal and gateway. The customer fills it out on their computer, and it comes back and gets approved, and there's no exchange of credit card data that's going through either a fax machine or email, so on and so forth. So the answer to your question is I would recommend to that merchant that they get some type of a virtual terminal, that a link can be sent out where the customer can input their credit card information, process the sale, and it goes back to the merchant as an approved sale, and there's no data being exchanged.
Yeah, I've told them about that, but they're, you know, they're hard-headed and can't get them to change, so.
Well, someone gets their card compromised and it winds up costing that.
Oh, I explained that to them, but it's still, you know, these guys are out in the hills in Tennessee, and you know they're big manufacturers, and you know they won't get up with the times. So.
Okay, well, once again, Brian, thank you very much. Great presentation. A lot of good questions there. I think you answered a lot of good stuff for everyone.